Marriage is like custom cabinetry. One wrong cut, and it all goes to hell. I learned that the hard way at Sienna's company charity gala, standing in a ballroom full of Portland's tech elite while my wife of 8 years treated me like a disease she couldn't shake. Evan, stop hovering, Sienna hissed through her perfect smile, the one she practiced in our bathroom mirror every morning. Her black cocktail dress hugged every curve, bought specifically for tonight's event. You're making me look desperate. I watched her scan the room like a predator sizing up prey. At 32, Sienna Harper was still stunning. Auburn hair cascading over bare shoulders, green eyes that could cut glass when she wanted them to. Tonight, she wanted them to. Desperate for what? Your husband's attention? I kept my voice low, but the sarcasm leaked through anyway. 20 years of building custom cabinets for Portland's upper crust had taught me to read people. Right now, my wife was performing for an audience of one, and it wasn't me. The ballroom buzzed with conversations about stock options and startup valuations. Sienna worked as an HR manager at TechFlow Solutions, a company that burned through venture capital faster than I burned through sandpaper. Tonight's charity gala was supposed to raise money for local schools, but mostly it raised egos and networking opportunities. "There's Tristan," Sienna said, her voice brightening like she'd spotted a long-lost relative. She waved across the room at a guy in his early 30s, all perfectly styled hair and designer suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Tristan Bell. I'd met him twice at company events, and both times he'd looked at me like I was something stuck to his shoe. He worked in marketing, spent half his time posting inspirational quotes on LinkedIn, and had the kind of confidence that only came from never being punched in the face. "Your coworker," I said. "My friend," she corrected, already moving toward him. I followed, watching the way she walked, hips swaying just a little more than necessary, shoulders back, chin up. She was hunting, and I was starting to understand I wasn't the hunter. "Sienna!" Tristan's smile was bright enough to power the whole ballroom. He kissed her cheek, letting his hand linger on her waist just a beat too long. "You look absolutely stunning tonight." "Thank you," she practically purred. "You remember my husband, Evan." Tristan's handshake was firm but brief, like he was touching something unpleasant. "Right, the carpenter. Cabinet maker," I corrected. "Custom work. I built the kitchen in the Morrison mansion last year." "That's nice," he said, already looking past me back to Sienna. "Did you see the article about our new client acquisition? We're expanding into Seattle." And just like that, I became invisible. They talked shop while I stood there like a piece of furniture, which, given my profession, felt appropriately ironic. Other couples danced nearby, laughing and whispering to each other like they actually enjoyed being married. The band started playing something slow and romantic. Around us, couples moved onto the dance floor, holding each other close. I turned to Sienna. "Want to dance?" She glanced at Tristan, then back at me. "I'm in the middle of a conversation." "It's our song," I said. We didn't actually have a song, but I was grasping at straws. "Evan, please, not now." I stood there for another minute, watching my wife flirt with her coworker while pretending I didn't exist. The rational part of my brain said to walk away, get a drink, find someone else to talk to. The stubborn part, the part that had built a successful business from nothing, decided to make a point. I stepped closer to Sienna, put my hand on her lower back, and leaned in to kiss her cheek. She jerked away like I'd slapped her. "Stop it," she snapped, loud enough that nearby conversations paused. "You're embarrassing me." The ballroom seemed to freeze. A woman at the next table actually gasped. Someone's phone camera flashed. Tristan looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "I'm embarrassing you," I repeated slowly. "Yes. God, Evan. I'm trying to network here. I don't want to look." She paused, searching for the right word. "Married?" I suggested. Her cheeks flushed red, but she lifted her chin defiantly. "Taken. I don't want to look taken." The words hit me like a hammer to the chest. Around us, people were staring now, some trying to pretend they weren't listening, while obviously hanging on every word. I could see phones coming out, social media vultures ready to feed. I looked down at my left hand, at the simple gold band I'd worn for 8 years. Then I looked at Sienna, at Tristan, at the crowd of strangers watching our marriage implode in real time. Slowly, deliberately, I twisted the ring off my finger. The metal felt cold against my palm. "Problem solved," I said, setting the ring on the nearest cocktail table with a soft clink that somehow echoed through the sudden silence. Sienna's eyes went wide. "Evan, what are you? You don't want to look taken?" I straightened my tie, gave her my best customer service smile. "Now you don't have to." I turned and walked toward the exit. leaving my wife, my marriage, and my dignity scattered across the ballroom floor. Behind me, I could hear the whispers starting, phones buzzing with texts and social media posts. By tomorrow, everyone in Portland's tech scene would know that Sienna Harper was officially available. The cool night air hit my face as I stepped outside. My truck sat in the parking lot between a Tesla and a BMW, looking exactly as out of place as I'd felt all evening. I climbed in, started the engine, and drove home to our empty house. Our house. I'd have to start thinking of it differently now. I woke up alone, which wasn't unusual anymore. Sienna had been working late more and more often, coming home after I was already asleep, leaving before I woke up. What was unusual was finding her passed out on the living room couch at 3 in the morning, still wearing her cocktail dress, makeup smeared across her face like war paint. Her phone lay on the coffee table, screen up and unlocked. The smart thing would have been to cover her with a blanket and go back to bed. The curious thing was to glance at the screen. I chose curiosity. The text thread was with someone named T, with a heart emoji. The messages made my stomach drop through the floor. T, last night was incredible. When can I see you again? Sienna, soon. E is getting suspicious, but I can handle him. Maybe it's time to tell him. We can't keep sneaking around forever. Not yet. I need to figure out the house situation first, and the business accounts. I love you, S. We'll make this work. Love you too. Delete these messages. I scrolled up, finding weeks of conversations, hotel room numbers, meeting times, explicit photos I definitely didn't want to see, and plans, detailed plans about how to handle their Evan problem. My hands shook as I took screenshots with my own phone, forwarding them to myself before deleting the evidence from her sent folder. 20 years of marriage, and I'd just learned my wife was not only cheating but planning to screw me financially in the process. Sienna stirred on the couch, mumbling something about the charity gala. I quietly made my way back upstairs, but sleep was impossible. I lay in our bed, my bed now, I supposed, staring at the ceiling and planning my next move. By morning, I had a strategy. Sienna stumbled into the kitchen around 10, wearing one of my old t-shirts and looking like she'd been hit by a truck. God, my head is killing me, she groaned, reaching for the coffee maker. Rough night? I asked, not looking up from my newspaper. The worst. I can't believe you just walked out like that. She poured coffee with shaking hands. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? For you or for me? She turned to face me, and I saw the calculation in her eyes. Sienna was always calculating angles, advantages, exit strategies. It's what made her good at HR and, apparently, good at adultery. For both of us, she said carefully. Look, maybe we both said things we didn't mean last night. We're both under a lot of stress. Are we? Of course we are. Your business has been slow. I'm up for a promotion at work. There's a lot of pressure. She sat down across from me, reaching for my hand. I didn't pull away, but I didn't respond either. Maybe we should talk to someone, a counselor. Maybe we should, I agreed. She looked surprised. Really? Sure, I'll call Dr. Martinez today, see if he can fit us in. Relief flooded her face. That's great, Evan. I think it'll really help us work through our issues. Issues, like her sleeping with Tristan, was just a communication problem we could solve with better listening skills. I have to run some errands today, I said, folding the newspaper. Lumberyard, hardware store, the usual. Okay, I might go into the office for a few hours, catch up on some things. On Saturday, you know how it is. Big project coming up. I knew exactly how it was. Her big project was probably 6 feet tall with perfect hair and a trust fund. After she left, I got to work. First stop was Radio Shack, where I bought a small GPS tracker, the kind worried parents use to monitor teenage drivers. It took me 5 minutes to attach it under Sienna's car bumper. Next, I changed all our home Wi-Fi passwords and removed her access to our joint bank accounts. Not emptying them, just making sure she couldn't clean them out while I slept. Then I called my lawyer, Tom Brennan, who'd handled the paperwork when I incorporated my business. Evan Harper. Tom's voice was warm and familiar. How's the cabinet business? Complicated, I said. I need to talk to you about protecting my assets. Hypothetically speaking, if someone wanted to file for divorce, what would be the smartest way to handle it? There was a pause. This hypothetical person wouldn't be you, would it? Let's just say I want to be prepared for anything. Come in Monday morning. Bring all your financial documents, business records, everything. And Evan, Don't do anything stupid in the meantime. Too late for that, I thought. Watching the GPS tracker app on my phone show Sienna's car parked outside the Hilton downtown, the same hotel mentioned in several of her text messages. I drove to my workshop, a converted garage behind our house, where I built custom cabinets for Portland's wealthy elite. The familiar smell of sawdust and wood stain usually calmed me, but today nothing could ease the rage building in my chest. My phone buzzed with a text from my neighbor, Mrs. Avery, a sharp-eyed woman in her 70s who missed nothing that happened on our street. Saw your wife leave with an overnight bag? Everything okay? I stared at the message for a long moment before typing back. Everything's perfect. But it wasn't perfect. It was about to get very, very messy. Monday morning brought rain and revelation. Sienna returned from her work weekend, glowing like she'd spent 3 days at a spa instead of screwing her coworker in a downtown hotel. She hummed while making coffee. Actually hummed, like she was starring in her own romantic comedy. Good weekend? I asked from behind my newspaper. Very productive. We made a lot of progress on the Seattle expansion. She kissed my forehead, a gesture so casual and fake it made my skin crawl. What about you? Get much done in the workshop? Oh, you know me, always working on something. What I'd been working on was a comprehensive file of her infidelity, complete with GPS tracking data, hotel receipts I'd pulled from our joint credit card, and enough screenshots to wallpaper our bedroom. But she didn't need to know that yet. I should get going, she said, grabbing her purse and keys. Big meeting this morning. After she left, I called my best friend Brick Kowalski, a former Marine who now ran a small construction company. We'd known each other since high school, and he was one of the few people who'd never been impressed by Sienna's act. Need a favor, I said when he answered. Name it. Remember that surveillance equipment you bought when you thought your foreman was stealing tools? Yeah, caught the bastard red-handed. Why? I need to borrow it, and maybe your truck. There was a pause. This about Sienna? What makes you say that? Because you sound like I did right before I caught my ex-wife with her yoga instructor. Want to talk about it? Not yet, but soon. An hour later, Brick pulled into my driveway in his beat-up Ford pickup, a duffel bag full of equipment in the back seat. He was a big guy, 6'4", built like a linebacker, with graying hair and hands the size of dinner plates. You sure about this? He asked, handing me a small digital camera with a telephoto lens. Positive, because once you see what you're looking for, you can't unsee it. I've already seen enough. Now I need proof. That afternoon, I parked Brick's truck across from TechFlow Solutions and waited. The GPS tracker showed Sienna's car in the company parking lot, but I had a feeling it wouldn't stay there long. At 2:30, she emerged from the building with Tristan. They looked around carefully before getting into his silver BMW, and I followed at a distance as they drove to the same downtown hotel. Through the camera's zoom lens, I watched them check in, saw Tristan's hand on her lower back as they walked to the elevator, captured the moment she looked over her shoulder with a guilty smile before the doors closed. I sat in that parking lot for 3 hours, taking pictures and feeling my marriage die one frame at a time. When they finally emerged, Sienna's hair was mussed and Tristan looked like the cat who'd eaten the canary. That evening, Sienna came home with takeout from our favorite Thai restaurant and a story about working late on budget reports. She even brought me pad Thai, my usual order, like guilt could be seasoned with peanut sauce and good intentions. How was your day? She asked, settling onto the couch beside me. Enlightening. She looked at me sideways. Everything okay? You seem tense. Just thinking about our future. Our future, she brightened. I've been thinking about that too. Maybe we should take a vacation, get away from all this stress. Where did you have in mind? I don't know. Somewhere tropical, just the two of us. Or maybe just her and Tristan, I thought, but kept my mouth shut. Instead, I pulled out my phone and showed her the first photo, her and Tristan entering the hotel. The color drained from her face. Evan, I can explain. Can you? I swiped to the next photo, then the next. Because I'm really curious to hear how you explain 3 months of hotel receipts, GPS tracking data, and text messages planning your exit strategy. She stared at the phone like it might explode. You've been spying on me. I've been protecting myself. Big difference. She stood up, pacing to the window. This is crazy, Evan. You're acting paranoid. Am I? I pulled up the screenshots of her text messages, reading them aloud. He is getting suspicious, but I can handle him. I need to figure out the house situation first. Tell me, Sienna, what exactly were you planning to handle? She turned to face me, and for the first time in months, I saw the real her. Not the performance, not the act, but the cold, calculating woman who'd been playing me for a fool. "Fine," she said. "You want the truth? I'm not happy, Evan. I haven't been happy for years. So you decided to screw your coworker instead of talking to your husband." It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You made a choice, multiple choices, for months. And what are you going to do about it?" Her voice turned sharp, defensive. "Are you going to divorce me? Take half of everything I've worked for?" "Everything you've worked for," I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Sweetheart, you seem to be confused about who owns what in this relationship. What's that supposed to mean?" I pulled out a folder I'd prepared that afternoon, spreading documents across the coffee table. "It means our house is in my name. My business is in my name. The savings account is in my name. You want to know what's in your name? Your car payment and your credit card debt." She stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. "That's not, we're married, it's community property. In Oregon, adultery affects asset division, especially when there's evidence of financial planning to defraud a spouse." I tapped one of her printed text messages. "This conversation about handling the house situation could be interpreted as conspiracy to commit fraud." "You bastard." "I'm a bastard? I'm not the one who's been lying for 3 months." She grabbed her purse and keys. "I'm not listening to this. Where are you going?" "To Tristan's place. Because I should probably mention, I sent copies of everything to his wife." Sienna froze with her hand on the doorknob. "He's not married." "He is. 3 years next month. Lovely woman named Jessica. Works as a nurse at OHSU. I found her on Facebook. Thought she deserved to know what her husband's been up to." The look of horror on Sienna's face was almost worth the 8 years of marriage I'd just flushed down the toilet. "Almost. You didn't." "I did. About an hour ago. I imagine she's having a very interesting conversation with Tristan right about now." Sienna's phone rang. The caller ID showed Tristan's name. She looked at me, then at the phone, then back at me. "Answer it," I said. "I'd love to hear how he explains this one." She declined the call, but it immediately rang again and again. "Looks like your boyfriend's having a rough evening," I observed. "I hate you," she whispered. "No, you don't. You hate that you got caught. There's a difference." She slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. Through the blinds, I watched her get in her car and speed away, probably to meet Tristan and figure out their next move. I poured myself a beer and sat back down on the couch, surrounded by the evidence of my wife's betrayal. Tomorrow, things were going to get very interesting. The next morning brought a text from Sienna. "Staying at Kara's for a few days. We need space to figure this out." Kara Whitman was Sienna's best friend since college, a real estate agent who specialized in selling overpriced condos to tech bros and enabling her friends' worst impulses. She had the kind of fake sympathy that came with perfectly manicured nails and a wine collection worth more than most people's cars. I texted back, "Take all the space you need. I'll be here working on my evidence file." No response. By noon, my phone was ringing non-stop. First, Tom Brennan, my lawyer. "Evan, what the hell did you do?" "Good morning to you too, Tom. I just got a call from Patricia Vance. She represents Sienna, apparently. She wants to discuss settlement terms." Patricia Vance was Portland's most expensive divorce attorney, the kind of lawyer who charged $500 an hour to destroy marriages with surgical precision. "That was fast," I said. "Too fast. She's fishing, trying to see what you know and what you're willing to negotiate. Don't say anything to anyone without me present. Already ahead of you. And Evan, that thing I said about not doing anything stupid? Yeah? Sending evidence to the other man's wife probably qualifies as stupid. Maybe, but it felt pretty smart at the time." Next call was from Brick. "Dude, you made the news." "What?" "Check Channel 6's website. Someone posted video from that charity gala." I hung up and opened my laptop. Sure enough, there it was. A shaky phone video, titled, "Tech Executive's Marriage Implodes at Charity Event." The footage showed me taking off my wedding ring and placing it on the table, while Sienna stood frozen in horror. The comments section was brutal. "Yikes, that's awkward. She looks like she wanted to be anywhere else. Plot twist, he's the smart one. Anyone know if she's single now? Asking for a friend." My phone rang again. This time, it was a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Evan Harper?" The voice was female, professional. Depends who's asking. "This is Jessica Bell. I think you sent me some information about my husband yesterday." Tristan's wife. I sat up straighter. Yes, I did. I'm sorry you had to find out that way. Don't be sorry. I've suspected something was going on for months. Thank you for giving me proof. What are you going to do? What any smart woman would do. I'm taking him for everything he's worth. There was steel in her voice. I wanted to call and thank you, and to let you know that Tristan won't be a problem for much longer. What do you mean? I mean, he's about to find out what happens when you mess with a nurse who has access to medical records and a very good memory for embarrassing details. I almost felt sorry for Tristan. Almost. The afternoon brought an unexpected visitor. I was in my workshop, trying to lose myself in the familiar rhythm of sanding and measuring, when Kara Whitman knocked on the door. We need to talk, she said, pushing past me into the shop. Kara was one of those women who looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Perfectly styled blonde hair, designer clothes, makeup that probably took an hour to apply. She was also one of the most manipulative people I'd ever met. About what? About Sienna. About this mess you've created. I created? You know what I mean. This whole surveillance thing, sending evidence to people, making a scene at the charity gala. It's gotten out of hand. I set down my sandpaper and turned to face her. Kara, my wife has been cheating on me for 3 months. She's been planning to leave me and take half my assets. Exactly which part of my response is out of hand? The public humiliation part, the revenge part. You're destroying her reputation. She destroyed her own reputation when she decided to sleep with a married coworker. Kara crossed her arms. Everyone makes mistakes, Evan. Everyone deserves a second chance. Some mistakes are bigger than others. Look, I know you're hurt, but Sienna is my friend, and I can't stand by and watch you destroy her life over one affair. One affair? I pulled out my phone, showing her the screenshots of text messages. This wasn't one night of bad judgment, Kara. This was months of planning and lying. She barely glanced at the phone. People grow apart. Marriages end. It doesn't have to be this ugly. You're right. It doesn't have to be ugly. She could have asked for a divorce before she started screwing around. That's not how real life works. It's how my life works. Kara sighed, switching tactics. What do you want, Evan? Money? The house? What will it take to make this go away quietly? You think this is about money? Isn't it always? I stared at her for a long moment. Get out of my workshop. Evan, get out. And tell Sienna if she wants to talk, she can call me herself, instead of sending her flying monkeys. Kara's perfectly composed mask slipped for just a second, showing the calculating woman underneath. You're making a mistake. Sienna has friends, connections, people who can make your life very difficult. Is that a threat? It's a reality check. After she left, I called Brick. Want to grab a beer? Always. The Glass Tap? The Glass Tap was our usual spot, a dive bar on the east side that served cheap beer and minded its own business. The kind of place where you could drink your problems without judgment or interference. Brick was already there when I arrived, holding down our usual corner booth. He took one look at my face and ordered 2 whiskeys without being asked. That bad? Getting worse. Sienna hired Patricia Vance. Ouch, she's expensive. Very. And Kara Whitman just paid me a visit, making vague threats about Sienna's connections. What kind of connections? The kind that can make life difficult for a small business owner who depends on referrals from wealthy clients. Brick downed his whiskey in one shot. So what's the plan? Honestly, I have no idea. I thought having evidence would give me leverage, but now I'm wondering if I've just painted a target on my back. You could always let me talk to Tristan. Explain the situation in terms he'd understand. Thanks, but no. I don't need assault charges on top of everything else. Who said anything about assault? I'd just have a friendly conversation about respect and consequences. Despite everything, I almost smiled. I appreciate the offer, but I think I need to handle this differently. How? I'm still working on that part. But even as I said it, an idea was forming in the back of my mind. If Sienna wanted to play dirty, if she wanted to use her connections and her friends to pressure me into a quiet settlement, then maybe it was time to stop playing defense and start playing offense. The game was far from over. 3 weeks later, I was ready to make my move. I'd spent the time gathering more evidence, documenting everything, and most importantly, learning about Sienna's world in ways she never expected. The plan started with Tessa Lynn, a mutual friend who worked in TechFlow's accounting department. Tessa had always been friendly but distant, the kind of person who smiled at parties but never really engaged. What I discovered, through careful conversation and observation, was that Tessa had been in love with Sienna's life for years. Her job, her marriage, her seemingly perfect existence. Finding out about the affair had changed Tessa's perspective dramatically. "I always thought you two were so happy," she said over coffee at a small cafe downtown. "Sienna was always talking about how supportive you were, how stable your marriage was. People aren't always what they seem." "No, they're not." Tessa stirred her latte thoughtfully. "Did you know she used company resources for her personal life? Company credit card for hotel rooms, company car for personal trips. HR is supposed to prevent that kind of thing, not enable it." "I didn't know that." "There's a lot you probably don't know. Like how she's been bad-mouthing you at work, telling everyone you're controlling and paranoid." That stung, but it wasn't surprising. "What else?" "She's been positioning herself as the victim. Poor Sienna, trapped in a loveless marriage with a blue-collar husband who doesn't understand her ambitions." "And people believe that?" "Some do. Others are starting to ask questions, especially after the charity gala video went viral." I leaned forward. "What kind of questions?" "The kind that make HR directors nervous. The kind that make executives worry about liability and public relations." That gave me an idea. The next phase of my plan required help from an unexpected source. Mrs. Avery, my elderly neighbor. At 73, she was sharp as a tack and had a network of gossips that would make the CIA jealous. "I need a favor," I told her over tea in her immaculate living room. "I figured as much when you brought flowers," she said with a knowing smile. "What can I do for you, dear?" "Sienna's been telling people I'm controlling and paranoid. I need the truth to get out." "What truth would that be?" I showed her the evidence. Photos, text messages, GPS tracking data, financial records showing misuse of company resources. Mrs. Avery studied everything with the attention of a detective. "My goodness, that girl has been busy. Can you help?" "Dear, I've been spreading gossip since before you were born. This is going to be fun." Within a week, the story had spread through Portland's social circles like wildfire. Mrs. Avery's network included wives of executives, board members of charities, and women who controlled the guest lists for every important event in the city. The narrative shifted from poor Sienna to that woman who cheated on her hardworking husband and misused company funds. But the real masterstroke came when Jessica Bell, Tristan's wife, decided to go nuclear. She called me on a Thursday morning. "I have a proposition for you." "I'm listening." "Tristan's company is having their annual client appreciation party next Friday. Big event, lots of important people. I'm still technically his wife, so I'm invited." "Okay. I want to make a toast about marriage, fidelity, and the importance of honesty in business relationships." That sounds like a very public way to destroy his career. "That's the idea. But I need backup, someone who can provide context if anyone asks questions." "You want me to come to the party? I want you to come as my guest. Let people see that we're both victims of their selfishness, and that we're handling it with dignity." The party was held at the Portland Art Museum, an elegant venue filled with TechFlow's biggest clients and partners. I felt out of place in my best suit, but Jessica looked like she belonged, confident, professional, and carrying herself like a woman with nothing to hide. Sienna was there, of course, standing near the bar with a group of colleagues. She saw me immediately, her face going pale with shock. Tristan was across the room, looking nervous and avoiding eye contact with everyone. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jessica's voice cut through the cocktail chatter as she tapped her glass with a spoon, "I'd like to make a toast." The room fell silent. Sienna looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. "To marriage," Jessica began, her voice carrying clearly through the room. "To the sacred trust between partners, and to the courage it takes to honor that trust even when it's difficult." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. People were looking around, sensing drama but not sure where it was coming from. "Some of you may know that my husband, Tristan Bell, has been having an affair with a colleague. What you might not know is that this affair involved misuse of company resources, violation of HR policies, and a systematic deception that affected not just our families, but potentially this company's reputation and legal standing." The silence was deafening. Sienna had gone from pale to green, and Tristan looked like he was about to faint. "I want to thank Evan Harper," Jessica continued, gesturing toward me, "for having the courage to expose the truth, even when it was painful. And I want to assure everyone here that both Evan and I will be cooperating fully with any investigations into the misuse of company resources." She raised her glass. To truth, justice, and the consequences of our choices. Nobody toasted. The room erupted in whispers. Phones came out, and I watched 8 years of marriage and 3 months of lies finally catch up with my wife in the most public way possible. Sienna pushed through the crowd toward the exit, but I intercepted her near the door. Leaving so soon? You bastard, she hissed. You planned this whole thing. I didn't plan anything. I just stopped covering for you. This will destroy me. You destroyed yourself. I just documented it. My career, my reputation. Should have thought about that before you decided to cheat on your husband and steal from your company. She stared at me with pure hatred. I'll make you pay for this. With what? Your legal fees are going to eat up whatever savings you thought you were entitled to. Your job is probably gone by Monday, and your boyfriend just got thrown under the bus by his own wife in front of his biggest clients. You don't know what you've done. I know exactly what I've done. I've made sure that everyone knows who you really are. Security was escorting Tristan out of the building. His career in Portland's tech scene was over, and probably his marriage too. Sienna would likely face similar consequences once TechFlow's board started asking questions about company resource misuse. I walked out of that party with my head held high, leaving behind the wreckage of 2 affairs and 2 careers. It wasn't pretty, and it wasn't kind, but it was justice. The ring was off the table, and so was any chance of redemption for the woman who'd tried to destroy my life while pretending to love me. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply letting people face the consequences of their own choices. And sometimes, those consequences are exactly what they deserve.
3 months later, the divorce was final. Sienna got her car and her debt.
I got everything else, including the satisfaction of knowing that her new life was exactly as empty as she'd made our marriage.